Hello, y'all. Hope everyone is doing good. This is Hey Man Kofi. Oh, mean Kofi. Cut to the chase and no time waste. Wow, hope you don't mind me jump right into it. From cutting off their own route to help the Siraya take root, to the rootless Tunglan who turned into underground outlaws, doing what they always did best. Hybrid Hakka pirates trading Formosan resources as Fuki and coastal merchants, selling gunpowder to the west, to the Brits, and to those European descendants locked in civil wars all the way until 1865. When American President Andrew Johnson declared the official end of the war on August 20th, 1866, though most historians mark April 1865 as the true end, that was a huge slam to the liquidity stream. Orders came scattered, a little gunpowder mineral here, some deer skins there, a few agricultural products. But once America's Civil War ended, the gunpowder minerals of Formosa were mostly shipped to Japan. From 1866 through the decades leading up to World War II, Formosa's mineral backbone became Japan's ammunition supply, fueling the rise of an aggressive military power bent on expansion. At the height of Japan's imperial rise, they wanted to shut down the hybrid Hakka pirate networks and underground trades, so they forged the Mudan Incident of 1874. The deeper layer of the Mudan Incident is still a myth, and I personally will not take it from written history, not even the Japanese version. Deep down, I know it was a setup, a pretext to pressure the Toda Sirayans into building that Qing wall, all in preparation for Japan and Qing's joint grand plan of carving out the kingdom of Manchuria. Still, Imperial Japan moved with another layer beneath. They would eventually take down both Qing and Formosa, but always with their eyes locked on Formosa, because this island was the backbone of their war machine. But hold on, I need to stop here. Historically, we're not there yet. Ha ha ha. That's for another few episodes, and not from the outsider's perspective, but from ours. So let's rewind. How did we go from being Tuluan to being Taiwan? Did the motherland's rooting efforts with the Toda Siraya really help Formosa step into a new realm of prosperity? And if it worked so well, why are we still divided? Say no more. First, we talk about how the Siraya went from rootless newcomers to rooted Taiwanese. And trust me, it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3, my friend. The self-amputation of his own root. On one hand, it was a brave gesture, a stand of cultural integrity, a way of saying Tuluan will handle disputes with fairness, we will not betray Gaia, even if it costs us dearly, even if tragedy falls upon us, our belief would not be shaken. 对东宁而言，这片土地的儿子，这样的自我切割就是残酷，看掉自己的根就是无尽的痛。这个举动源自德鲁湾的女性力量，选择母系的自由，随心所欲地生活。他们全力支持西拉雅，帮助他们中间身份，把他们深深地扎根在福尔摩沙。现在暂且把夫妻的情感放一边，没错，最大的问题就藏在这里。But let's hold that thought. First, let's see how Tuluan chose to root Siraya while casting aside a brave son forever. But 放眼全世界，你会发现，大多数民族首先糊的都是自己的根。外人来了，不是抵抗，就是征战，就是强行同化。很少有人会为了保护别人，把自己的命根子看掉。But yes, it happened here in Taiwan. when matrilineal traditions overflourished and shaded the patriarchal side. 历史里也曾经出现过一些影子，北美伊洛魁人收服陆入氏族，波利尼西亚人接纳于南者，让他们成为亲人。偶尔东南亚沿海商队，让外国人落脚只为一点生意，但那都是生存手段。他们守住了核心，没人真的断过自己的根。只有德鲁湾不一样了，德鲁湾把土地交出，把野莫分给别人，打破自己的社会结构，只为了让西拉雅能在这片土地上扎根。世界上没有第二个 Motherland 这么做，只有德鲁湾 That is Taiwan.
Feel it. Feel the bass from across the room.
撇开这些自我监视，现在我直接问你们，几乎人人口中都说爱台湾，爱台湾，但我看不出那本土的根，有多爱你自己在台湾纵容自己。我看到的爱是享受自由的爱意，是过着不艰苦生活的爱，是把许多事情视为理所当然的爱，是追着下一波潮流的爱。你们的爱是想成为别人，没有自己的根，不直说了吧。我必须说，你们早已彻底抛弃了真正的根源，这难道不是外来侵略不罢休的真正原因吗？灵机挂浪 ，unbelievable。When the night of slaughter finally passed, the Siraya survivors crawled out of hiding. What they saw was devastation. Their heartland shattered, their people scattered, their center stripped away. His was the moment when the true and motherland stepped forward, not just as protectors under Gaia law, but as the support that survival leaned on. Truku and Patriarchy became the lifelines, guiding them through safe passages, carrying supplies and opening new ground for settlement. Through the strength of the Tuluan-Patriarchy alliance, the Siraya were not erased, they were carried to new soil to keep living. They were woven into new territories across Formosa, places deemed safe under the shield of Tuluan's reach. This was survival, yes, but also a rerouting that forever changed Siraya's path. From that moment on, the Siraya were no longer bound to a single plain, nor dismissed as outer islanders. They became a people of many roots planted in soils far from their original fields of Sinkan.
You wanted to know where I've been? Now you'll find out.
Here I am going to list out how Siraya got rooted in Tuluan. Of course, nonetheless, the Siraya did not just vanish into the wind. Most of the new tribes of Taiwan, Makatao, the Siraya families in Hsin-Chu and Miaoli all grew in regions already held safe by others. The Truku, the Patriarchy, the Paza, their strength was the shield. Their networks were the corridors. That was where the Siraya could breathe again. Because under that protection, they found safety. 当然，大多数的希腊呀，甚至今天的一些太鲁阁、头达，早已转化成我们现在一般口中的台湾人。事实上，他们就是最早的听台发起者的谢麦。他们和日本建立了紧密的关系，当然也和清朝有着往来。不可否认，他们确实扮演了重要角色，帮助清朝巩固主权，成为日本的支柱，输送福尔摩沙的自然资源，让日本持续发展军备，并扩张海上力量。那么现在，让我们看看的陆湾是如何帮助他们散布在整个福尔摩沙，好让他们能建立起新台湾的基础。Once again, the Truku, the Paze, the Patriarchy, 他们的网络掌握了贸易路线，他们守护着南民的流动。希腊雅之所以能迁徙，唯一的原因就是 because it was Truku Paze Patruku who escorted them, who shielded them. The Taiwan, born from Siraya refugees who moved south and inland, merging with other displaced plains peoples. They forged a new identity, yet carried with them the speech patterns and rituals of the Siraya. The Makatao, a southern coastal branch that safeguarded the old maritime wisdom. Under a different name, they kept alive the Siraya's fishing skills and boat-making traditions.新竹与苗栗的西拉雅后裔. These new families were once escorted north by Tuluan allies to resettle and settle down. Some resettled among Hakka during the Qing, while others lived on the borders of Siraya Foothills, where cultural overlap and a shared matrilineal system made life easier. They often adopted new languages, yet fragments of Siraya ritual endured, in marriage rites, in harvest customs, in the quiet corners of memory. Jumbu de西拉雅后裔. Paze, their homeland was the Taichung Basin stretching into the Puli Valley. Patriarchal, yes, but bound in trade and ritual ties with the Truku. That is why Siraya families passing through did not vanish. They found protection in those lands, and there too the Siraya left fragments of themselves. Not erased, not gone, but folded into villages under the shield of the Deluan Patriarchal corridor. 有些西拉雅人在清代转成了客家 not out of love, not out of choice, but to survive, to avoid genocide under Liu Mingchuang. And that's why, right in the middle of central Taiwan, boom, 会冒出一个客家村. Weird, right? Doesn't belong. Cause Paze didn't care, Patruku didn't care. Truku, please. They never bowed to Liu Mingchuang or the Qing. Only the Siraya Ayawaya. First to switch sides every damn time. Jing Tao Tiang. Tucked tail, ran for cover. Straight up chickened out. Ha ha ha. Hakka Patchwork 2.0. Yay! So after the Patchwork Hoklos, it's the Hakka 2.0 taking the stage. The second hybrid type was born in Formosa. Of course, unlike the Pinzhuang Fulao, they became Pinzhuang because their roots got amputated. But these Hakka converts, they did it out of fear, afraid of being killed by the Qing army. Okay, there is more to come.
Shout out to my girls in the back. Got they boots.
Some Siraya women married into Atayal and Saisiat villages, carrying with them farming knowledge and trade connections. Quietly, they reshaped the seasonal cycles of those mountain communities. Donghai岸的融合. Small groups of Siraya and Taiwan boat builders and fishermen sailed into Amis and Puyuma villages in Taitung and Hualien. Through trade voyages and intermarriage, they left their traces in the oral genealogies of the coast. What emerged was not a disappearance but a network, a living, moving web of Siraya bloodlines and cultural threads stitched into the broader fabric of Formosa. Each branch carried a fragment of the original root. Planted in different soils, yet bound together by memory, by kinship, and by the web of Tuluwan's protection tightly woven together. This is why, even after centuries of assimilation and renaming, the Siraya spirit remains scattered yet alive, like seas carried on the wind, finding a way to take hold wherever they land. So now you know, the nourishment and evolution of the Siraya did not just happen on their own. It was granted, nurtured, and promoted with the support and love of the Tuluan motherland. I remember the Sirayan pastor who carried a grudge against the Truku. I was in awe. I had to find other ways to fix that human glitch. It was not easy. Taiwan has been divided many times, and even today, even that Sirayan pastor has lost his root. And the truth is, the majority of the population is the same. Lost roots, broken ties. a nation losing its true self. Some even knew the truth, but chose to live in disguise, finding only a temporary comfort in superstition. And that's how it goes. Generation after generation. Layers of disguise, layers of comfort built on lies. Until one day the root is gone, and all that's left is Pinjuang identities walking around like a culture zombie, thinking they're whole. I am Hakka Ning, I am Hokkien Lan. You say this like Gaia can't hear you? Aren't you just calling the enemy in, honestly? If I were your Chinese enemy, I'd come cut you down too, no joke. Because cutting you off is easy. You ain't got no roots, always hijacking our ancestors living under that stolen shadow. And yes, that enemy of ours, they only dare to oppress their own kind. Didn't you use their ancestor as your own for the longest time? That makes you one of them, right? Am I right? This sounds ugly, right? Well then, why can't you be honest and face this damn ugly truth before you get crushed by the enemy who's been lending you their ancestors all along? Many of these resettled Siraya did not remain isolated in their new homelands. In the years following the massacre and relocation, they became deeply intertwined with the Paze and Trukutoda peoples who had sheltered them. The Pachuco escorts who first guided Siraya survivors inland became the lifeline, arranging protection, facilitating trade, and forging marriage bonds that sealed the alliance in both blood and law. Siraya fishing knowledge and coastal navigation routes began to merge with Pachuco's mountain defenses and farming and forest gathering expertise. Villages in these shared territories took on a dual character. War shields and hunting trophies hung beside fishing nets. Harvest feasts were followed by coastal-style dance and song. Over time, children in these settlements grew up bilingual in both speech and tradition, equally at home in the rhythms of the sea and the codes of the highlands. But in those foothills, another force was already moving in, one that would cover the Siraya's name under an entirely new label. The new settlers turned against the hybrid Haklos by converting to Hakka. The so-called Hakka in Taoju Miao, 99% Pinjuang. They weren't pure migrants from Guangdong. They were Siraya, Tauca, Saisiat, indigenous tribes who put on the Hakka mask. How? By teaming up quietly with a few southern Hakka who had just slipped in through Mudan, teaching them basic Kejahua, enough to pass as Hakka on paper, and enough to survive against the Pinzuang Fulao already ruling the plains. And let me be clear, I mean the Mudan Gate. Down south in today's Pingtung, that gate was built after the Mudan incident, when Japan stormed in to punish the Paiwan. Qing panicked, fortified the coast, and used Mudan as their controlled landing point. And who did they bring through that gate? Not Hoklo, too powerful already. They brought in the unwanted Hakkas from Guangdong. The mountain poor, the disposable ones, landed at Mudan, planted in Liudui and Meinong, and then given their assignment, push north, convert the Siraya, convert the Taucas, convert the Saisiat. That's how Hakka spread in Taiwan, not by heroic fleets, not by free migration, but by disguise, by reclassification, and by Qing policy, weaponizing poverty into colonization. By the early 1800s, hybrid Hakka made up around 10 to 15% of Taiwan's hybrid Han population, concentrated in Miaoli, Hsin-Chu, Taoyuan, and southern Pingtung. In some foothill zones, they overtook Siraya Saisiat numbers within 2 generations. The Siraya and Saisiat had to face a brutal choice. Option 1, fight and risk Qing military retaliation. Option 2, retreat deeper into Atayal territory where survival was uncertain. Last but not least, assimilate into the Hakka registry, keep their land, and live to see another season. They cast aside the Tuluan roots of their motherland, only to grip the Siraya's nature and wear the outlook of the Hakka. And how can we blame them for abandoned Tuluan that once rooted them into the motherland? We are talking almost 2 centuries later. Don't tick. It's the way it is, man. I feel sorry for Tuluan this time. Assimilation was not surrender, it was camouflage. It was hard living under foreign invasion. This being said, Chinese is foreign to Formosa, 10,000%. Under threat, what goes? Number 1, land survival. Only those listed in the Han Hakka registry could legally own farmland. Number 2, market access. Being Hakka meant entry into Qing trade networks for tea, camphor, and crops. And 3, marriage alliances. Hybrid Hakka, who's already giving a Han last name, or very few of the real Hakka men married Siraya-Taiwan women. Within a generation, the census erased the indigenous name. Under the Hakka label, Siraya bloodlines, stories, and even certain customs lived on, hidden in plain sight. Simply put, the Qing strategy to dilute the hybrid Hoklo's power was to convert the Siraya and the other related matrilineals into Hakka, a group easier to bend under threat. Unlike the patriarchal Formosan groups who would only convert on their own terms. And not only that, the patriarchals would always retaliate when suppressed. Easy. They didn't care if you were Dutch, Chinese, or Japanese. You touch their turf, try to bend their way, you get challenged.
When you surrender your will to win.
The Truan motherland's protective reach was too far. The Qing military presence in the plains and foothills was too strong. And the demographic tide, wave after wave of Qing-backed migrants, made holding on to an open Siraya identity nearly impossible in the frontier zones. So, the Siraya didn't vanish from Miaoli or Hsin-Chu. They simply learned to speak a new name to outsiders while passing their real stories in whispers at home. Even today, some Hakka villages in the foothills are, in truth, Siraya and Saisiat roots wrapped in another man's cloth. The hybrid Hakka, the census may have buried the name, but the land remembers. And the people? They remember too, even if they don't always say it out loud, only for the sake of staying alive. Over time, it became a habit. Generations afterwards, they became rootless. And some hardly knew who their ancestors are, just like the hybrid Hoklos. All of that, under the Chinese territorial games, again and again. And the more you think you're one of them, the deeper you get trapped in their game. Internally, Pinjuang Falau you can't mess with unless you're the Highland Warriors, their homeland daddy almost like. The new Hakka hybrids. Nice try. They just can't win. Qing and Japan got way too naive about laundry the hybrid Hakka to flip the hybrid Hoklos. That ain't gonna happen ever. And the Qing Han, that's for another episode. But let me tease you a little. I'll tell you how Formosa once again sparked the fall of the Qing. Why? Because they broke their own promise. The promise not to set foot on Formosa. But after 200 years, they did it anyway. So they start to fall. Thanks to Gaia. For 222 years, the Siraya-Toda alliance under Truan held a visible upper hand in Formosa's social and political arena. Gaia law anchored the land. The mountains were secured by the Truku and Patruku, with the Paze reaching further to their coastal cousins, the Basai and other related plains tribes like the Hawanya, Papora, and Taokas along the shore. Meanwhile, the hybrid Hakka culture and its identity conversion spread rapidly along the local coastline, reaching all the way down to Makatao. The Tungling descendants were remembered as war heroes, and with that memory they forged a new identity, the Hakka dominators. No, they did not conquer all of China, but they did take Fujian and stretched across nearby coastal lands, pushing up into what we now call Zhejiang province, even reaching into the core of Jiangsu. That entire territorial sweep was remembered as their outstanding performance in the War of Conquest. This kind of reminds me of the Taiwan factories first entered China to help picking up the Chinese economy back in the 90s. Of course not with weapons, but they entered with manufacturing machinery and manufacturing know-how. Once a savior to the mainland, now they're threatening you daily to demolish you. For real? What is justice? Let's continue with our story. The Siraya's maritime links to Japan kept the economy flowing. On the surface, it looked like a clean chain of power. But beneath that surface, another engine was running, one the Truan patriarchal lineage could neither fully control nor dare to crush. These were the rootless Hakka hybrids, descendants of the Mid-Odd Plains clans that once defeated the mighty Dutch, Ming loyal holdouts, and scattered coastal groups cut off from Truan favor once the Siraya rose to political primacy. They no longer held official standing under Gaia, and in defiance they coined their own law, Tingongbei, a name that signaled independence while still echoing the old system they'd been excluded from. This time, they carried the trophy they had earned, hardcore. Hakka, to the new birth of Fukinese converts, spreading new seed into the very soil of Formosa itself, despite the abandonment, despite the pain of being cut off from their original root of Tuluan. A reforged Gaia dressed in a new name, it endured into modern times until the KMT twisted it, woven together with Chinese folktales of the dark underworld, Indian Difu Shibatsen Diyu, a realm of hell, pain, and suffering. Moving freely through the shadows, carrying out private executions in the name of God. And then they stretched it further into organized crime, spreading fear deep into the daily lives of ordinary people in Taiwan while outwardly tying themselves to the Chinese Communist military. Training as the core of the so-called fifth column, Diwu Zongdui, already primed to unleash the slogan of extermination, Liu Dao Buliuren, genocide. Am I right? Or is this just a dream, a bad dream? One you and I can't wait to wake up from. They had no seat in the Tuluku Tuluan Council, no inheritance rights in Tuluku nor the Siraya lands. But they had something Tuluan could never dismiss, deep old connections to every shoreline of Formosa, and the closest of kinship ties to their former family branches in Tuluku and Patruku, especially with the Patruku. Their brotherhood network ran unbroken from the days of the Dutch settlement through the Ming Loyalist Wars to the restoration of Siraya influence. Patruku warriors fought at their side, shielding trade routes and lending muscle where Gaia politics could not reach. That bond meant the hybrids didn't just survive in exile, they thrived in the shadows, running an underground network that filled their own coffers while at the same time guarding the Siraya-Taiwan trade web, so strong no outside power ever dared to invade. Let's be real. Patriarchy was the glue that held 222 years of peace together. Without them playing referee, without them helping both stubborn sides grow in their own way, there would have been another clash for sure. And if that clash had come, the Siraya would have been wiped off the map. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead, I dare you. Or maybe some pastor, some historian, whatever, thinks they've got a different oral history. My email's right down below in the YouTube description. I'll answer, but only if you sign your name and the institution you stand with. Pushed out of the official indigenous power grid, they turned to the one arena no one could fence in, the sea. From hidden coves to estuary towns, they became smugglers, blockade runners, and underground brokers. They ferried camphor, deer hides, and sulfur out to the mainland in exchange for salt, silk, firearms, and silver. They dealt with Qing merchants under the table, slipped goods to Japanese traders when Siraya tariffs got too steep, and sometimes even moved Ming remnants across the Taiwan Strait. If it floated, they could move it. If it was banned, they could move it faster. Nobody, not even the Truan or the Siraya leaders, had the legal or military reach to stop them. These Hakka hybrids moved in the blind spots of both systems, answerable only to their own networks. And that's what made them dangerous and indispensable. So tell me, how could any ancestor of yours have dared to come from China during those 222 years? Not a chance. They were the mafia of Formosa, but a mafia the island couldn't live without. The advanced American rifles that flowed from the patriarchal streamlines of the Tagdaya down to the plains by the late 1800s, every single one came through barter trades, then turned into weapons for hunting and for guarding the mining territories. So don't fool yourself. The Siraya-Taiwan Nippon connection wasn't the only player in town. The secret societies were running the island. In time, this shadow economy became a second pillar of Formosa's stability. The Gaia-bound Indigenous Alliance held the land, mountains, and internal order. The Hakka Underground Network ran the high-risk external trade, keeping silver and foreign goods flowing in even during embargoes and political standoffs. The two systems interwove, but never merged. No one had the right to impose law over the other. It was a cold, untouchable peace, calculated, unspoken, unbreakable for more than 2 centuries. And that's what kept Formosa whole, even if it was never truly united. Crazy, ironic place to be, isn't it? Maybe you think the hybrid Hakka were the doorway for Chinese migrants? No freaking way, Jose. Not for a second did they want the real Hakka or Hakka moving in on their turf. Their trade networks existed to be protected, not invaded. That's why many even called them the Formosa Pirates. And trust me, they had the skill, the muscle, and the alliances to defend it, not just along the southern coastline, but deep into the plains. And the daddy, he resided high in the mountains, closest to Gaia. So before the short-lived Qing ever set foot in the looming Chuang era, before the Japanese took control, before the KMT years, ask yourself, was Taiwan's population really from China? The answer is no. What we had were tough as nails hybrids. They might have looked Hoklo, talked Hoklo, but cross them, and you'd unleash warrior fury right in your face. Ha 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 ha! And that, my friends, is why Formosa's history isn't written in ink, it's written in scars. In the next episode, we're gonna do some math. Something sharper, more scientific, more precise. We'll measure the timeline from then until now, and show why Taiwan's public ballot trends look the way they do today. And yes, without even counting the Owa Hanji, this hybrid constituency ties straight back to the rootless ones.